Hello, welcome to Woodcraft Revival. On this channel we talk about all things wood. Today I've got to fix a mistake I made on my mill several months ago. Tore something up, and we'll see about swapping it out so we can have a little more precision on the front end. So on my Norwood LM29, I don't have any hydraulic loading. I don't have any automated system to do that. I have to load it manually. And what I use is my tractor bucket with a chain grapple. Just a grapple actually came from Norwood, a grapple that hooks onto the log, have it chained to my bucket. And my tractor's old enough that I don't have a swappable bucket where I can put forks or a grapple or anything like that on it. Working on that. But so I have to do that manually. And sometimes I get a little squirrely or a little overzealous with putting those logs on there, and this is the result. So I don't know if you can tell, but this first bunk is bent backwards. And the reason why is I had a log I was trying to slide over this way, and I didn't realize there was a knot at the bottom of the log, 6 o'clock position, and it started bending this bunk. And I don't know if you can see that gap. There's a pretty substantial gap there, probably 1/8 of an inch. So it pushed it back, and not only did it do that, but it also affected the angle in which my log stop rests. I don't know if you can see, if I put that right there, you can see how it's got a gangster lean that way. So the issue is multiple things. I've even bent the little bracket here. So what we're going to do, I think we're going to swap it out with one of the bunks all the way down at the bottom that aren't really utilized. So these bunks here at the end, the mill, the cutting head doesn't even come this far. It won't make it that far. So these are more for structural support for the extension. This is a 4-foot extension. So I believe I can just swap these out. We're just going to kind of rob this one. And that's the beauty of the way Norwood designs this. Every single one of these bunks, these bed frames, are identical. So when it comes time to swap those out, all I have to do is take my log stop bracket off, put it right here, because all the holes are already there, so no drilling needed, and just swap the two of those things out. So the bent, funky one can be down here where it's completely taken out of play. So the first thing I think I want to do is take this log stop off and move it to the other one. The assembly process of the Norwood mill is pretty arduous, and so I don't want to monkey around too much to where I get something out of square. So that's why we're not going to move the frame, we're not going to stand on the frame, I'm not even going to move the saw carriage at all, because I don't want any play, any movement there to cause the track to get out of alignment. I spent a lot of time lining this track up, so I do not want to mess that up. Okay, so just 4 simple bolts. Take that off. We'll put our bolts down here in the sawdust so we can lose them later. Now, at first I thought I was just going to remove the orange part, the bed part. But this bracket, I've noticed, is bent out of a 90 degree. So we're going to move that. My fear is that just because of that bend, and that's drawn in a little bit, that there's tension here pulling this track in some. I've noticed just a little bit of resistance. I don't know if that's why when I'm kind of passing through this area, but that could definitely be causing it. So we're going to take the brackets off, and that could dramatically affect the alignment of the trek. But fortunately, these outer rails are holding that in place too. So I think since those have been dogged down quite nicely, removing this bracket that covers these two bed plates will not allow there to be too much movement. Again, that's why we're not going to touch it and monkey around on a lot of things. So I think what I'm going to do, for the sake of order of operations and just minimal amount of time to have that track loose and exposed, we'll start down here first, break these guys loose, take this bed rail off, and be ready to swap it out when we get down there. Okay, so here's our new one. Yeah, so that plate is sticking out just a little bit. So I've put a little bit of a warp on that, I bet. Alright, so let's get this started, and before we dog it all down, we can come back and double check some things. So we're almost a 1/4 of an inch wider, which is a problem. So I know there's a little bit of slop in these brackets. I'm going to put them together. So we're going to have to back those out, which I really didn't want to do, because that means that's going to affect level. But we'll just have to get our level out and clean it up some. So I believe there's just a little bit of inward play here. Yep. All right, so we'll utilize some mason string here to help get some things lined up. I'll go this way. Got to go under the blade. Alright, so we want to try to get this bed as close to touching the bottom of the string as possible. I got 1/32 of an inch. I think that'll work. Got all the lift I can get. Now I bring up this side, it'll probably bring it out more. Do not know how I managed to mess that thing up. Yeah. Pull that up nicely. You gotta get them both started exactly the same way. It's obviously not how this was originally assembled. If I can get a bolt started in the bottom of both sides, I won't have to take as much apart, I don't think. So with this being the trailing end, I can use my level instead of my string. It gives me a little more accuracy since my 4-foot level can span these last 3 beds. I didn't loosen it, so I don't need to tighten that down. That's dead on the money. A bit of drop on this side. A lot of bit of drop on that side. All right. Get my fine adjustment tool. This is why you always keep chunks of wood lying about. Oh, snap. That's what we want. All right, let's see if we can dog that down. Good. All right. Bend is still playing around with stuff some, but I think we'll be okay. Ow. Okay, so now it's time to put our log stops back on. See if we can get back to running more square. Now as I put this bracket together, obviously I can adjust a little bit of twist here, but then the actual log rest has adjustments here on the back side where we can move screws in or out. That will adjust it this way. This way will only be determined if we put something in there that wasn't bent. And my speed square is gone. Okay, so square this way. A lot better than what it was. Not super critical, because square this way doesn't affect cut, but I mean, we're out. Could have something to do with the fact that I've run into this with a mill multiple times and bent the pipe several times. Anyway, I mean, we're out over the course of 11 inches. We run out maybe an 1/8. Not a huge deal there. What really matters is right here when we're trying to square a log, of course. So that's where we want it. So that's full this way. So I'm going to put some leverage, some tension on it, pulling back toward me as I try to dog this down. This is something that's good to check on a regular basis, especially when you load like I do. If I had more of a mechanical means of loading, then this wouldn't be as big of a deal, because I wouldn't beat the frame as much as I do. But dance with who brought you, right? Now me likey. Well, all right, I think that's going to be something I can cross off my list. Happy with how that turned out. Got that bent bed frame out of the way. And I think that'll let us run a little more true. The biggest issue I don't know that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, is with that leaning back toward the saw head, if I'm milling exactly an 8-foot or an 8'4" log, sometimes I'm missing being able to dog that down. And of course, as I mentioned, the track was pulled in a little bit. There may be some more alignment issues. I may have to get come along and kind of twist that back out, because I think I do have a little bit of a bend in the frame here, but it's not actual bend as much as it is just stressing some of the attachment points. But we'll see. I'll make some little more tweaks to it. And the whole point, again, in fine-tuning this is, as we get started on our timber frame, I need this to be as true as possible so that we can get good square timbers out of that. If not, if we're cattywampered and we're rhomboidal shaped, that's just going to make the timber framing aspect harder. And so try to correct the mistakes on the front end so they're not multiplied on the tail end. All right, well, thank you all for coming along. And as I'd like to say, be sure to spend some time with those you hold dear and get a chance to get out in God's beautiful creation. We'll see you soon.